No, it should pop up. Ain't no nut yet. That's that. That's it. So it's gonna always be a little delay. Yeah, yeah. All right. So what's up? What's going on? What's going on, everybody? What's going on? Tuned in to Tapped In. Yes, sir. My name is Troy. My name is Sean. And we just here, man, two husbands talking about life and, what's going on in our world right now. So we appreciate everybody that's been tuning in and going on the journey with us. And so, we just want you guys to be a part of our everyday conversation, the stuff that we be talking about all the time. And hopefully you guys can get some insight from the conversation.
Absolutely. Feel free to chime in. Make sure you hit the subscribe, like, share the page. We're just gonna jump right in. So happy Thursday to everybody.
Happy Thursday, man. So Troy, man, this week been going by like a blur.
Yeah.
So, what's been going on in your world, man? What you been doing? What you been up to?
Man, not a whole lot. Today was a busy one, man. I tell you what, I'm fresh off a 3-mile run, man. Back, get my cardio on.
Okay.
I'm feeling good. Actually, man, I'm improving though.
Okay.
Starting to get, I'm knocking 3 minutes out, man. Just right around 40 minutes, but
3 miles.
3 miles.
Okay.
3 miles. Cause you figure maybe a month ago, man, I couldn't even run a full mile. That's how long I had kind of got away, from it.
Wow.
But now I'm getting through it, man. I'm running through it. So starting to get my lungs back.
Your lungs back.
Oh yeah.
Let's go out. How your legs feel?
Oh man, they feel good. I mean, it's a workout. I got a little heavier than what I like to be, so hopefully I can run it off, man. I was thinking, man, I be doing a lot of low carbon and things like that now, and I feel like I've been going through a lot of ups and downs, man. Like you feel your strength and you don't feel strength,
right?
So I'm trying to find a way to get a steady diet, so I won't have to try so hard.
Right.
Yeah. Is that how you normally?
Yeah, so for me, I mean, some people might think like it's straight consistency, all of the time, but it's not that. But the one thing I do is I tell people all the time, I don't eat what I want all the time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So my thing is like, it's thinking long term. It's easier for me to maintain than for me to try to lose a bunch of weight. You know what I mean? So like, I might go crazy and eat whatever I want for a couple of days. And then those next couple of days, I'm, cutting back. I might start just eating salads or, like protein, vegetables, really low on the carbs and starches, just to give me a balance. And like, really, I kind of just try to listen to my body. The other thing I do, I try to always, I go to the gym, try to work out, my body, but also try to get on, I get on the treadmill. I got a treadmill at the house and I'm in the garage. And so I'll go out in the garage, just on any given night. My kids would come out there and like, what are you doing?
Right.
It's like, I got y'all from 20 to 4. I'm trying to just stay in my lane and keep up with you guys so that when y'all want to do something, I ain't getting up all slow. I want to be able to be involved, just as involved with my 4-year-old as I am with my 20 and my 17-year-old.
4-year-old.
Yeah.
Well, you got to keep your energy up for real.
Yeah, and I can tell you for sure my energy level ain't up to hers, but what I mean.
I can imagine.
But it certainly that her energy certainly does keep me young. So that to me is a motivator and a driver for me. And then just like exercising. When you lift the weights, you exercising your outside muscles, but when you're running, exercising that heart muscle.
And that's the balance that I got to keep in mind, because I'm an iron addict. I love weights. I love throwing the weights around. But at the same time, it's almost like having a hooked up vehicle and the engine not right. So you want to make sure that, that heart stay pumped. And honestly, it's great for you mentally too, man. I mean, working out altogether. Just the concept of making it a lifestyle. I was talking to someone in the gym today, and I was saying how a lot of people don't understand that time you dedicate to your body. It helps you so much mentally, like a lot of the stress you're going through and things that you just encounter on a daily basis. Right. You let it go. You release, endorphins, and kind of give you that happy mode, and you start to feel at peace.
Yeah, and then for a lot of us, I mean, we got jobs where we're sitting down a lot. You know what I mean? So being active, working your muscles, like you feel, even though you work the day and you've been productive, you feel like you did something good for your body too. You know what I mean? And that kind of lends itself to, just your overall confidence when you just walking around. You know what I mean? If you feel like you're in pretty good shape, you feel like you're pretty strong, I mean, you carry yourself that way, and a lot of people, if they start to put on, if they start to put on more weight than what they want, they feel less confident. They don't want to go to the same places because they think people looking at them or judging them like, man, he or she done put on a lot of weight. And then, that in and of itself can cause somebody to put even more weight on, because it's just like they in a space where they don't feel good about it. And then they see somebody like, you can go to a family function,
Oh man, the old folk is gonna tell you about your stuff.
Oh, maybe you put on a couple LBs.
Man, they go hard on you. Yeah, they really do. And one thing that I always keep in the back of my mind: we all live busy lives, and a lot of us, we're businessmen, we're family men. But most of the things in your life you can delegate. You can say, hey, you know what? Go handle this for me. I can't make it here. Go handle this. This body right here, you can't delegate that to nobody. It's your only one sole responsibility. Right. So you're the only person. So you can't blame it on anybody else. So
right.
Yeah.
No, that is true, man. That is true. So So what's the goal? I mean, is it just to get to a certain place and then maintain, or try to find that balance that you was talking about, where you feel as strong as you want, but your cardio and all of that stuff is in line too?
I tell you what, my goal now is, because of my age now and where, I want to get to a maintainable place, a place where I can say, okay, I can maintain this, because before I want to hit them numbers. I want to go in there, but I took a vacation, and my vacation lasted like 3 weeks, and it took me out of the gym for 3 weeks. And I tell you this,
I thought you had a vacation took longer than that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's the best my body felt, man. I'm talking about my elbows felt good, my shoulders wasn't hurting. And it just came to a realization that, man, I don't get paid to lift all that heavy weight. Right. We go in there, we throw around a whole lot of weight and whatnot, but that's not my goal anymore. Now it's just to be physically fit and, keep this ticker, going good, and just try to be around for my family for many, many, many more years.
Right. Well, that's what's up.
So I do have a question though, before we even go, because with that conversation, I was thinking, because now, I mean, Hollywood, they make a joke about it. A lot of people taking the shots, they doing the, a whole bunch of fad diets. It's a lot of supplements and things that now, what you were saying earlier about the pressure of not wanting to go to places you want to go because you gain weight, or, people expecting you to look in a certain way. Do you feel like it's a pressure for people to take some of these supplements and things that?
I do, man, because, we live in a fast-paced world, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody wants results. They know what they want to look like, but they don't want, I'm not gonna say they don't want to, but you didn't put that weight on overnight. Mm-hmm. You're not going to lose it overnight. The same way it crept up, it could have been a 6 or a year stint where, you wasn't taking care of your body, or you wasn't watching what you was eating or being mindful of it. And through the course of that time, you can put on a pound or two a week. Mm-hmm. Well, the same thing happens when you want to go lose weight. You're not going to lose 10 pounds at a time. You're going to lose a pound or two a week. And I think the thought of that saying, okay, well, I want to lose 50 pounds. Well, if you only do 1 pound a week, that's a year, right? And some people look at that and like, man, that's gonna take too long. When you got this shot that you can take, and I mean, if that gets you, if that's what gets you motivated and going to the gym, and you start to see results quick, but also you realize, okay, this is helping me get started, but I can't do the same things that I was doing before and expect to be able to maintain it. Exactly. You know what I mean? So it's got to be, if you do that, to maintain it and have it for a long period of time, you have to also change your habits, right? The way that you approach that part of your life.
Yeah, and it definitely could be a benefit. I mean, it's definitely a health benefit. And I understand some people, they need that jump start. So I'm all for it, because it's a health, it's a health concern,
Right.
But I just want to make sure that also, like you said, people understand that it's a mindset that has to shift too, along with taking that. So while you're taking that and start picking up new habits, start, scaling back on the meal. So that way you no longer have to depend on it and you can maintain it as a lifestyle. And that's the goal, just to maintain a healthy lifestyle altogether.
All right. Just to make sure we still tune in here.
Well, they need that jump start, so I'm all for it.
Oh, right. Yeah. All right. Sorry, you guys. We had some technical difficulties these last couple of weeks, so we wanted to make sure we were still streaming. So I guess that's a good way for us to segue into something a little bit more serious. And that's the hurricane and the effects that it had, on Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and the timing of it. The fact that something like that would happen right at the same time that the port workers go on strike. You know what I mean? Where the things that they need are toilet paper, water, like your essentials.
The essentials.
To be able to get by. And, and with them going on strike, it's like, well, how are they going to stock the shelves? And what's going to take priority? And, should we be stocking up on that stuff right now?
Yeah, I mean, prayerfully, and we're praying for all of our brothers and sisters in those areas. Prayerfully, I mean, some people learned from COVID, from what we, just 2020, 2021, that, things like this could happen. So maybe some more people was stocked up. I think it is necessary, to go out and stock. Even with us now, with the ports being closed, we don't know how that's going to affect us. Now, I went in the store the other day, couldn't find no baby oil. No.
No, I think I might got an idea where you might go pick up a couple bottles of baby oil, man.
Yeah, but on a serious note, man, I think we should stock up, but I don't think we should get too fearful, man, because all of our provisions don't come from us,
Right.
I think that any situation we get in, we got through COVID, and nobody knew what to expect during that time. It was a scary time, but I think listening to the media, you want to be wise, but at the same time, I mean, when it was over, I still had toilet paper, man, for months up in the cabinet. I was like, man, what can you do with all that?
Yeah, the crazy thing about that is, like, as far as like, because we bought a lot of canned goods and stuff, and like earlier this year, I ended up throwing some of that stuff away because it had reached it was past the expiration date.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, you can, like you said, you got to be mindful, but you also want to make sure that like my family, I need a little bit more toilet paper than you do.
Right.
So I need to make sure we got a nice little supply, because them little 8 packs or 16 packs, man. I think, man, I don't know what they be doing with that that toilet paper in the bathroom, man, but it don't last long. You know what I mean? And it's crazy because for me, as our family grew, because it started off being just the two of us. Like I would go to the store and buy like the little 4-pack, right? And so now, like and this is before we had a 4-year-old. My wife would tell me, hey, can you pick up some toilet paper before you come home?
Mm-hmm.
Man, guess what I would go buy?
But the same little. Oh yeah, and you right back the next day.
Yeah. I mean, that ain't even a role per person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At that point in time, imagine now. So that stuff don't last long. But really, actually, I was on Facebook and realized, remember Sandy, who used to work with us at Home Team?
Uh-huh.
She just moved like a month ago, right in an area that just got.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So like, I mean, even for us, we know people in and around that area. For you guys that are watching this right now, I know Grace Church in Seaford, they actually are collecting supplies. So if you go to I think it's Grace United Seaford Facebook page, they shared a list of stuff that they need that they're going to be taking down there.
Uh-huh.
So like even stuff that you haven't even thought about, like dog food for like the
animals. Oh yeah, gotta take care of the pets
for the animals. And I forgot there were some other things that they mentioned that there was actually the mission of the month for us that they had mentioned. I was like, man, I would have never even thought about that. But they obviously they got a ministry, but they kind of stumbled into a disaster relief ministry. So they do a lot of stuff here locally, but then when they have stuff that happens like that, they'll load up. So they're gonna go down next Monday and they're gonna stay a whole week.
Wow,
they
awesome.
Partnered up with a couple of the churches down there, and they're gonna help out. And that really that's what it's all about. Us using our resources and coming together for people. In their times of need. Fortunately, we haven't had anything that catastrophic here. We did have the tornadoes that came through. One came through Laurel, one came through Greenwood, and then back in was that 06 when we had that torrential rain. We got like 8 to 10 inches in a couple of hours. Mm-hmm. And some of the reports that I've heard is like over a 3-day time frame. Some of these places that was hit got like 21 inches of rain. Cook. You know what I mean? And so like if you're in the mountain areas, that's gonna cause like mudslides. And it's been a lot of a lot of people have lost loved ones. So thoughts, prayers, and condolences go out to everybody that was affected. And if you're watching this video and you have and you're part of an organization that wants to give, just put a comment below so that we know who to direct people to if they're looking to help out for the families and down in the South.
Absolutely.
Right.
So with that being said, man, as the leader of your household and being a father, and we base this podcast off of just our experiences as a husband, as a father, things like that. A question was posed now because I got married early. I was 20 years old when I got married. Right. I was 20. Been married. I'm on camera. I hope I say this right. 26 years. I'm going to be 27 years. But look, now, do you think it's wise for a young guy to get married in his 40s, or should he get married earlier? Like, what is the comfortable age or the wise age for someone to get married now?
So, I mean, I think society would tell you that you need to have it all figured out. Society now is like, the pressure of it is like you're supposed to have it all figured out when you're 20, when you're 21. And it just don't happen that way, because the best decision, you try to make the best decisions that you can, but you're going to make mistakes and life's going to happen. Right. So I can't speak to anybody else, but I'll have this conversation like if I was talking to my son, is, if you find somebody that is like-minded like you, that, inspires you and drives you to be a better person, to be a better man, to be a better husband, to have a stronger faith, stretches your imagination of what is possible for you in this life, and believes in you as much or more than you believe in yourself. It doesn't matter how much money you have. That's something that's invaluable. right?
Okay.
And that's something that as long as you care for that love and nurture that, it only grows and it gets stronger. And you have the luxury of being able to share not only the successes of that journey, but even the lows of the journey. Because you don't get the successes unless you go through the failures, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't realize how good the journey's been really unless you got somebody to share those memories with.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know what I mean? Okay. So for me, I don't see the advantage if you find the right person to wait until you got everything that you want before you decide to get married. Because to me, I think that's kind of a selfish decision.
Okay. So we both have sons. You have a son. I have two sons. Mm-hmm. And we have a daughter. Mm-hmm. Now that's honorable and noble when we speaking to our son. Mm-hmm. So now you got to flip it because you have a daughter. Right. So would you want your daughter? I got 3 daughters. You got 1. So would you want your daughter to get married off of that potential that you just talked about? You know, good. She meet a guy. She sees the drive. She sees the potential, but he hasn't produced yet. Mm-hmm. And potential is just that. I mean, it's an idea that, okay, he has the goods to go out here and be something great, but is the work ethic there? Is when life is thrown at him, you know, hard, is he able to like shake it off and continue to walk this path? Can we stay focused when outside is in our ear, when her parents are in his ear, when his parents or his society is in his ear because he's not making those financial gains? Mm-hmm. So would you tell your daughter the same thing? Say, hey, that's a good guy because he has potential. Or would you want to see that potential manifested before? All right. Hold that thought. Mm-hmm.
So I almost feel attacked. No, because like honestly, that guy that you're talking about is me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right. So I'll flip it around and I say with my wife, just to give you an idea. So we dated since high school, right? Mm-hmm. And she was always fiscally responsible. When I was going to college, she was the one that was getting the letters in the mail from different credit card companies. You know, hey, apply with us. She was the one that was getting the credit cards when we were probably about when I was about 20. She was maybe 21 because she's older than me. She could have bought a house. At that time. That's how well she took care of her credit. At the time I was still in college, and I was like, no, let's wait, let's try to buy a multi-family home or whatever. Well, we didn't end up buying a multi-family home. I actually came across one and we didn't buy it. But long story short is, and I was doing things. I wasn't a success, but I had goals, I had a drive, and I wanted to be. My thing I tell people all the time, I wanted to be great at something. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what it was. I was going to college. I was barbering. I had a small retail clothing store. Like I was doing all of these things, yeah. But on the outside looking in, me today, looking at that young man, I'm like, man, he's all over the place. He don't know what he want to do. Right. But I know he's driven and he's trying to get to a place. The most I would say, the potential is great, but what is his source of strength is greater. Right.
Okay.
So if he has the potential and he's working, but his source is his strength and what he relies on to guide him is his faith, then I'm okay with that. Okay. Right. Because I know that that's going to be his compass, when it comes down to making a hard decision, or Is he going to do what's right for my daughters and their family? Is he, is he going to, is he, when he makes mistakes, is he going to try to be better? Right? And is he going to realize what his faults are and, own up to those things and try to be a better man? So in that instance, I would say yes. But if you got a guy who is kind of wanders aimlessly and got all of these pie in the sky ambitions, but ain't really doing the work, like talks a good game, but you really can't see him actually doing stuff. Like, yeah, then I would be like, hey, maybe you might want to take a look at this a little bit harder, or you sure this is what you want to do? Because ultimately, it's their decision.
Right.
And what I've tried to do is try to give them an example of what a man is supposed to do for his children, his wife, you know what I mean, and his family.
Okay, no doubt. And me, because I have two sons, and the ages they are now. My oldest, he's 28, so I think he's getting into that threshold where he's probably looking for something a little more serious now and all that. My fear for him is that the expectations from females now are that, I mean, it's almost unobtainable because of the music, because they expect young men to have what their fathers, give their mother at 45 years old. They want that at 28. And we wasn't there at 28. We were 28. We took a trip. We went across state lines. We went to Baltimore. We went to DC. Now we might can get on the plane and go wherever we want to go, vacation. But I think the expectation, man, is heavy for a young man now. And with that expectation, it's hard to stay focused and say, okay, I'm going to keep my head down for 2 years and build. It almost forces them to want to go out and speed the process up. And sometimes that could land them in, it could be detrimental to, their goals.
Yeah, no. So I totally agree with that. And, social media can be a positive in a lot of ways, man. But, I think about me and if I grew up if I was my son's age right now, and I had the same mindset that I had then, I think I would have figured things out faster, but I would have been more frustrated in the process because I would have seen too many people who looked like me and was around my same age that on video looked like they was 10, 15 years ahead of me. Right. And not know if that's really true or not.
That's it.
Like, I'm working my tail off. I'm doing everything possible to get to this place. But man, they say the comparison is the thief of joy.
That's it.
But, it's just like when you're also looking for somebody who is doing what you want to do so that that it's possible, right? But if you start seeing too many people, it's just like, well, what am I doing wrong? Why aren't I getting that same kind of traction or success that this person is doing? And so that's where that balance has to come in, where you have to figure out, what does success look like for you?
That's the key. That is the key,
right?
Yeah.
And let that be your guide, because what looks like success to somebody who they could be making, again, going back to our earlier conversation, millions of dollars a year, but they 40 years old, they're a single bachelor. Like, yeah, you might see clips on Instagram where they're in the club party and stuff like that, but then they go home. Then they go home to a house by themselves, right? Like, is that really is that what you want to be? Is that what success looks like to you? So if that's what it is to you, then you go pursue that. But if that's not what success means to you, so success for me was to be married, to be raising a family, to have a house, to buy my family a house that we could live in, to have a yard for my kids to play in, to be able to go to my kids' games and recitals and things like that. That's what success looked like to me.
Okay.
And so that's what drove me. So I think you have to have that balance, man. of what that looks like for you, so that you don't go like really you'll go crazy trying to chase somebody else's dream.
And that's exactly what we see now. We see everybody jumping ship, abandoning their purpose, abandoning their goal to jump on the next best thing because everybody want a highlight reel. You know what I mean? And life is not a highlight reel. Life is work. Marriage is work.
Right.
Parenting is work. So it's all, what you put into it. But with that, I mean, it's roles. You know what I mean? It's things. A husband has a role. A father has a role. There's so many different hats that we wear sometimes. I think you can kind of get overwhelmed, you know what I mean? And then throw in the mix of the social media and, everybody's showing their grand gesture moments, but nobody's showing the day-to-day life and the day-to-day struggle. So with that being said, do you feel like if you had, well, I'm gonna back up. If you had waited until you was successful, all the way successful, where you're at now, do you think you would still have the same desire to want to get married?
That's a good question. And would I be? So I can only hypothetically say it, but I would have the desire to. I would have the desire to get married, but I probably wouldn't trust many people because I would think that they was married want to be with me because of the success that I have, not the person that I am. Right. Or what their life is now going to look like by being
attaching themselves to you,
to me. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so it's just like, okay, do you really like me, Sean, the person? You know what I mean? My morals, my values, what I want for my family unit, and what success as a family looks like to me, or do you want Sean the success? What you from the outside looking in just want to be a part of.
Prime example, Tyrese. I don't know if you just recently seen that article with Tyrese. I think his ex-wife, she came out and said, you know what? I didn't really love Tyrese, but I love what marrying him could do for me and my career and where it could take me at. And that's that risk that you're talking about. So this man is looking for something concrete. At the same time, she's looking to be able to attach herself and put her out there. And then when it's all said and done, I got to give you half of everything that I don't work hard for.
So that's interesting. That's interesting. Sorry, guys. Just making sure we still tapped in.
All right, let's stay tapped in.
Yeah, let's stay tapped in, man. So I hope y'all enjoying this. Yeah. And so it's just like, okay, do you really like me? Showing the person? You know what I mean? My morals, my values, what I want to do. All right. So that's a very, hold on, guys. Okay. All right. So that's a very interesting subject because I was looking it was on Reels on YouTube, and it was Aaron Gordon. He said he had met a basketball player for the Nuggets. He had went on a date with a woman who she was trying to play like she didn't really know who he was like that. Right. And they were sitting at the bar. They went to a restaurant, but they were sitting at the bar waiting for a table to open up. And she said, she kind of swiped on her phone, and like the first thing that popped up on her phone, like he was sitting right next to her, he saw it, was Aaron Gordon's net. What's Aaron Gordon's net?
Wow.
Like,
scandalous.
But he was talking to Michael Porter, who's his teammate, and he was like, man, it's crazy that they'll play that game, and I mean, men do it too. So, like women, if you're listening to this, I mean, we know men run games same way that women run games, but this is just our perspective on this subject. But like he was saying the same thing. It's like, man, that's what's so hard. it's almost like when you get to that point of you successful and you haven't found that person that grinded it out with you or that you was with in college before you got all of the money, it's almost like you have to make a business decision.
That's it. That's exactly what it is.
It's not even really love. You're trying to find somebody that you love and that you in love with in love with, but there's this extra layer of protectiveness and guardedness that you're gonna have because you don't know why this person really is with you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. And I think, one of my favorite songs, man, I go back, man, Jaheim, man. He talks about the struggle love,
Right.
And if you don't have those struggle love moments, it's hard to appreciate the, we made it here moments. And I feel like, man, everything we do now is actually for those golden years. When you sit back and you look at your legacy, you look at your family, your kids, your grandkids, and you say, no, you know what? We made it. We made it through all the stages. And I just think in this day and time, a lot of us are not making it through the stages. Right. If truth be told, we talked to some of the older people, we all went through it, you know what I mean?
Right.
And we all had to figure out what was important to us in our relationships. I mean, and the roles, you know what I mean? We didn't touch much on that, but are there specific roles, man, for a husband and a wife? And do we know what those roles are now?
Man, honestly, I think those roles are different just for every relationship, just like every individual is different. Right. So what works for you in your household, like how y'all split up the duties, what y'all do is different than what we may do in our house. You know what I mean? So like when we first, so let's just take things like cooking and cleaning, right? I want a clean house. I don't expect for my wife to be cleaning all day long for me to have a clean house. I expect I'm going to clean too, right? As far as cooking, if you ask, it's a joke between me and my wife, but it's kind of for real true. So my wife can cook, I can cook as well, but I like cooking in the evening for the family because it relaxes me, right?
Okay.
Like I like cooking, making different meals and stuff like that. So if you were to ask my children who cooks dinner for y'all on a nightly basis, they can like my dad. Like even when I'm not there, my wife can be home. They call me, Dad, what's for dinner? Right? And that's just how it rolls. Now the joke is, whenever we always have like Thanksgiving at my house, and then we have like other little functions at my house. That's when my wife cooks. Okay. So everybody takes her food and just assume like she the one that be cooking all of that. Right. And the stuff that we make is stuff that she's really good at making Thanksgiving dinner. Right? Okay. So she makes really good macaroni, cheese, and collard greens, and cabbage. Right. And we make all of this stuff together. But she does a lot of the prep and putting everything together, and the seasonings on Thanksgiving, right? The rest of the time it's me, right? Right. But then there's other things. I'm trying to think. Like I want to break down, what you would say traditional. So like in the morning, taking kids to school, I do that. My kids have to go meet the bus, so. Like I started off taking my son, and now my daughter has to go meet a bus, so I take her. I have to get her off the bus in the afternoon because my being a real estate agent, it's flexible. I can carve out that time to be able to do those things. So both of my daughters, I pick them up from school. She takes our youngest daughter to daycare. And I was thinking about this, not knowing we were going to have this conversation, but even down to things like I'm not one of those guys that's going to spend all day detailing my wife's car. Right. For it to rain tomorrow. Right. It's like, hey, I'll take it through one of them Jones where they take it through, they wipe her down, vacuum it out, and I'll bring it back to her. But I'm not going to.
But that goes to what you said earlier, just like cooking though. See, you find peace in cooking. Right. A lot of men find peace in cleaning the car. So that's what's right for them in their household. Right. So things like that, I feel like you can be flexible in. Now, as a man, I feel like the protective part, 4 o'clock in the morning. I live deep in the woods. You know what I mean? The dogs get the barking and all that.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
What would I look like rolling over saying, babe, go shoot?
Oh yeah,
go shoot. I got to pull it together, man.
You got to pull it together. You got to be willing to
so
sacrifice.
Yeah.
Man.
So I don't believe in like the traditional roles, but some things is just basic, you know, basic instinct. We're going to protect, provide. I mean, let's be honest. Nowadays, women make just as much as men, but I think provide could work in so many different ways. Provide financially. You want to provide spiritually, mentally. I mean, it's a lot that you provide emotionally. And a man is, we set the tone for the household. You know, I'm not saying it's a hierarchy, but we're men. And we do have to set the tone, and a lot of responsibility fall on us. So lots of times when things go awry in the household, I mean, it's human nature for us to start looking around like and want to place blame, but the kids doing this, doing that. But at the end of the day, it comes back to us. Right. And that's a huge responsibility. Yeah. So maybe you do have to be mature in a marriage or in a relationship, you know, be far as age wise, because it takes time to understand that.
Right. But you got to understand, you got to that place because you was in that relationship. Right?
Yeah.
So if you're not in a relationship to learn those things, rather you start at 23 or you start at 43, you still got to get those tools, right? Because you don't just inherently have the tools to be a good husband, a good provider, you know, a good father. You know, there are qualities and morals and things that you have that would allow yourself to be that. But when the rubber hits the road and it's actually time for you to produce these results, will you do it? Will you be, you know, I don't know where I got it from, but I always said the better parent is always going to be the less selfish parent. Right? Because they're going to sacrifice they're going to sacrifice more of their time. They're going to sacrifice, they're just going to make sacrifices. And I'm not saying that, you know, one parent is better than the other, but in any relationship, I believe you can find a parent that sacrifices a little bit more.
But does that speak to the nurturing factor of a woman?
Absolutely.
Because most women in a relationship, they come from a place of nurture. They're able to provide nurture that a man can't provide. You know,
it's just like the same thing as when a woman is a single mom is trying to raise a son to be a man, right? She can without the father being around, right? She can put him in front of role models and stuff like that, but it's just like she can't teach him how to be a man. Like there's just certain ways that we think and we approach things from, you know, just a logical standpoint. We don't typically act out of emotion as much, you know. So like one little telltale sign is when you got a young man who's extremely emotional, right? Anything sets him off. Like if you grow up with a father, you know, if you grow up with a father, typically in the household or around you, you know, he don't have to be in the house raising you, but he's present in your life. He's going to see that and he's going to check you on. But his son or his daughter, he's going to check on that emotional lack of control and that emotional response, right?
I'm glad. Yeah.
You know, absolutely. And so he's going to be able to, hey, no, we don't do that. And be able to guide them. And that's a way that a man would respond to that as opposed to like a woman on the nurturing side of it. You know, if something's wrong or they need somebody to talk to, or you would think that men get their confidence from their fathers, but they more so get the confidence from the mothers.
Yeah.
From the way that the mom kind of just, you know, raises them up, pours into them, tells them they can do anything. Like I can tell my son he can do anything, but when his mom tells him he can do anything, it's like, oh yeah, I really can do that.
And mom stay in go mode. I mean, I remember growing up in situations I got in. When my dad step in, that means it's escalated to
Another level,
the whole another level. And that's how I am. Well, my wife, the kids come home, oh no, I'm gonna call that school. The school did what? Or this kid did this what in school? And like you're saying, that boldness, they learn how to speak up for themselves. But like you said, a lot of that is emotions, which is not a bad thing.
No.
But when dad step in, so okay, I'm gonna think about this. I'm gonna figure out why this was said, why this was done. And when I feel like it's time for me to step in, it's not too much. You know, I done pretty much figured out. I'm not going there out of emotion. I'm going there. Okay, I done weighed the situation out, and it requires me to step in. Right. So with that, we're seeing a lot. I think a lot of what we're seeing today, like when you turn on the news, you hear a lot of 14, 15-year-old teens where they're doing a lot of shooting, they're doing a lot of violence. And some people will look and say, you know what, that looks tough. But no, that's actually a direct indication of what we're talking about. That emotion. If you go behind the prison walls right now, a lot of them guys would tell you, as they just sat there for 10 or 15 years, you know what? I'm here because I made a emotional decision within so many seconds that landed me here. And if I had a little more self-control, if I had, thought a little bit more and had control over,
if I realized that me walking away didn't make me a punk, it just made me a better man.
A better man.
You know what I mean? To understand, like, look, I know where this could go. I could pursue it and run, straight into it.
Right.
Or I can say, you know what, it ain't even worth that. And I can walk away. And that's the hard, honestly, that's the harder decision to make.
Absolutely.
Is to walk away. And especially like nowadays where you got cameras, camera phones out all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to walk away.
It is.
And so like, that's why it's even more important. Or like when, you get embarrassed and, in some instances, it could be the homeboys or the homegirls that's holding the camera. But in other instances, it's, somebody who they might not get along with, who's just using that as kind of like a revenge tactic. Boom, I'm putting this up, it's going to be up here forever, and, the ability to be able to assess those situations and be able to make a rational decision sometimes is going to be the difference between life and death.
Yeah. And as a father, I feel like it's important to instill in your sons and your daughters, like, you got to give them a sense of self-worth. You know what I mean? Because people are going to tease. We grew up in a time, we played the dozens. We call it play the dozens. Right. We go to school, man, before I get off the bus, man, if I was a crybaby, I'd be crying because them kids, man, they go hard. They went hard. You know what I mean? Got some good laughs on the bus. We still got to get off, go do the best we could do at school and come back. You know what I mean? Now it's like, you can't even take a joke anymore. You're not even, and everything is, I don't know how to say it, offensive. You know what I mean? Right. Anything you say is offensive. And I think it's just spewing over into everything now, man, where we're softer. We're softer as a generation, man. But I think it has to be taught in the household, man. I think we have to instill it in our kids, say, you know what? Let them talk. You're great. You're going to be great. Right. You know what I mean? I see your potential. I know what you can do, and don't worry about what these kids are saying, and not to be that emotional.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah. I would say, a lot of the things that we face as a society, some of the environments that we can contribute to, is from that lack of that structure. You know what I mean? And just that, and the other thing that fathers bring to the dynamic is respect and structure. That's it, right? And holding them accountable to that, And so, if we had more of that, things could be a lot different. On another note, we talked about like providing and what's the roles and things like that. And like, as far as like bill responsibility.
Woo.
Bill responsibility. So, like, what do you? What's your thought? What do you think? What should a man be responsible for? Or let's just say in our case, what should a husband be responsible for in the relationship?
I laughed at that because that's a big one. I see that a lot on social media. Should a man pay all the bills and should, you know, if your heart is in the right place, you would want to pay everything, because, hey, I'm a man, I can take on that financial burden. But and with the economy and with the lifestyles now that we enjoy living, I don't think it's a reasonable expectation for the average man to pay all the bills. Now, I think a man should be able to provide consistency. I think he should be able to be able to keep a roof over his family's head. If my wife didn't have a dime in her pocket, yeah, I should be able to keep a roof over her head. I should be able to provide the necessities for her. She should have a car to drive. Now, should we be able to go on vacations, eat out at anytime we want to, and all that? If I'm paying all these bills, nah, I don't think that's a reasonable expectation. I think everything works better when it's a unit, because and every household is different. You can contribute in different ways, but to say a man has to pay all the bills, unless he's,
and we talking about like the
average man that's either punching a clock or owning his own small business. Me, I don't think it's a reasonable expectation, because what are you doing? What are you doing with your money? What are you bringing to the table in that aspect? And then if you love me the way you say you love me, why would you want to watch me struggle the same way you don't want me to watch you struggle? Right. So why can't we build together?
Right. So for me, man, the one thing, I had a good example, right? And some people, again, it goes back to how early you start, how early you are in the relationship, and what issues you've had as far as money goes, right? So, like for me, I grew up watching my dad give my mom his paycheck every week, or whenever, every week, every 2 weeks when he got paid, right? Went through and she worked too, and she paid all of the bills. They shared the same account, all of that kind of stuff, right? And so, like, that's the example that I had, and even with my faith, with a man and a woman coming together, becoming one. It's just like, if we're gonna be one, we're gonna be working at this thing together. Now, no, you're not. I should do my line share of the work, right? But I married a helpmate, so if I do need help, that person should be willing to help alongside me. Because if you do that, we can do much more than we can with me just by myself. Right? Now, if I was in a place where, I'm that 40-year-old guy that we was talking about, where you had all of this success and you got everything that you ever wanted, at that point in time, the person that's coming along, I'm not saying that you would have to, the dynamic might be a little bit different, but I want you to want something, right? Yeah, I don't want you to just want to even if you want to be a stay-at-home mom, right? What's your passion? Because just being a mom and just being a wife is not what God put you here for, right? He gave you gifts and talents to be able to use, and to be able to help other people in some kind of way. So let's find out what those things are, and then you can work at doing those, those things, because that's going to add value to us as a family. Right. Because now we're going to be around different people. We're going to experience people in different situations, and we're going to be able to help, right? And so it shouldn't just, sometimes it's not about like how much money you can bring to the table. It's how much value can you bring to us as a family, right? To be able to accomplish what it is that we want to do.
And you use the term lion's share, though. You do know in the wild, the female lion she hunts the food and go get the food. So if y'all out there with me, listen, females, ladies, hey now, they gotta go out there and get it.
Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness, I think building together, finding somebody you can build with, and you know, you have a lot of single women out there, and they've been doing it on their own a really long time. Right. My logic, this is just my logic. I'm not a woman. I haven't, you know, been in that situation. But if you've been doing 100% of this long, and you find somebody that you're compatible with, and you say, you know what, I can build a life with you, and they're willing to come in and take 50% of that off of you. Say, okay, I'm gonna go have with you now. Most of the time, that includes stepkids, kids that's not theirs. It includes a lifestyle that you've already built and you can sustain on your own. I would think that is a bonus because you're lifting a burden off of me, and that extra now that I have, I can put that, I can either save it or do other things. So I don't get the concept of, oh, I can do it on my own and he's going to come in and just take all your responsibility.
Right. So that's interesting because it seems something that, you know, we thought about. But in that scenario, you know, when the guy does come along, let's just say the woman, you know, she has a really good job. They are compatible. And like he's doing something that is happy and fulfilling to him. It may be a career. You know what I mean? Maybe let's just say, for my instance, he's a successful real estate agent, right?
Okay.
But she is, she has worked her way up in the hospital and is now like a director, right? Okay. Where she's making six figures, right? Mm-hmm. She might be making, you know, maybe let's just say 300,000. He might be making 150,000. Anywhere else, I mean, he's doing pretty good, right? But in this relationship, he's making half as much money as she is. We're not in this situation, but how do you keep the dynamic of that relationship as to where he's respected as being the man in that relationship?
That's where it's important to go back to some of the things we talked about earlier. You have to make yourself valuable as a man in the other areas. You know what I mean? You have to be able to do all the heavy lifting. You know what I mean? You have to be able to, you know, like I said, if she's an ambitious lady and she's bringing in, you know, the bulk of the money, you have to be able to do more with the children. You have to be able to, I don't know, man.
So what responsibility does she have?
I think as a woman and a man, we have. Wow, that's a hard question, man. I mean, because I don't want to give out gender roles because, like you said, all households are different. But I think it's just some things that women bring to the table, some things men, and just automatic. You know what I mean? If you're a man, you're going to bring a certain energy to the family, right. Same as a woman. I think you're responsible to keep in that. But finances, if it's a we thing, I don't think it should boil down to, oh, she makes this the most, makes, you know, the most. Right. I think as a man, he's still the head of the household and he still has a voice because it's not like he's sitting on his hands. He's just doing what he loves to do and he's still bringing in a respectable income, you know. I know in my relationship, I'm going to talk about my relationship personally, we motivate each other. I mean, to me, it's motivational. My wife's, you know, she get a raise, she's doing this. Okay, now I'm going to go out and I'm going to do it. And next thing you know, we both up here because, right. And it's not a competition. It's just like healthy motivation.
It goes back to what we talked about before. She inspires you, drives you, pushes you past what you think your horizon is.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So there was something else I wanted to well, in that scenario, it goes back to something that you said earlier, which is to lead, right? So I think the most valuable thing, you know, in that particular dynamic, you know, when a woman is making more money, is the husband's ability to be able to lead the family, to lead that relationship, and to be able to lead that family. And honestly, I think that you don't even get to that point where you have a equally yoked, you know, relationship unless you had that conversation before, you know, before you decide to get married or something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Decide to get married because that's got to come up. You know, it can't. You know what I mean? That's like a big elephant in the room. It's just like, okay, well, you know, you should be discussing finances, right?
Oh, yeah.
So at some point in time, as you get to know this person, you're going to find out, you, I mean, you want to know if they got good credit, right? And you want to know, what kind of lifestyle they expect to have, what kind of, what kind of money they're making. And then as soon as, if that's an issue for you, then that's something that not probably, something that you should address and talk about. Okay, what does this mean to you? And what are you expecting of me? Because the crazy, not the crazy thing, but the interesting thing to me is that, I saw a video. It was a young lady. She put herself in a really good position. She's making a six figure income, like 24 years old, had her own apartment, nice car and all this kind of stuff. And, mapped out everything that she wanted to do up until that point in time and did it. And her mindset was, if I did all of this, I'm not going to be with somebody back here. I'm going to be with somebody who's where I'm at or ahead of me, because like, I personally don't have time to wait. Right.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so in that instance, it's like, is she wrong for feeling that way? You know what I mean? I don't know.
It's a lot of factors behind that, because 9 times out of 10, first of all, we know a lot of young females mature a lot quicker than guys. Mm-hmm. And then also it boils down to the support system. Mm-hmm. If she comes from a family and she's third or fourth generation of college graduates, and she has that support system that's going to push her. Where this guy, he said he may have come from lack, a household of lack. You know what I mean? And said one day, like potential we talked about earlier, one day I'm going to do this, but right now I just got to take care of the bare necessities. Right. So that doesn't give me the time to go to school all day and do this. I got to get out. I got to get a job, because let's be honest, in a lot of households, we're taught, and our households, we're taught, get out school, go get a job. Right.
Go to college, get a job.
Yeah, go to college, get a job. That's it. You know what I mean? So if you don't come from a place where you're being pushed in that direction, then I still think it's an unfair expectation. Because if she finds a guy that's willing, right, to be cultivated and poured into, then she can pull him up to that level.
Right. It's interesting. I will preface it by saying she did say that she was in a relationship before where she did try to do that. And she was like, no,
time wasted.
Yeah.
Wasted time.
Wasted time. You know what I mean? Yeah, so like, you know what I mean? Like, honestly, as men, if you want to lead, then, you got to be able to, you got to figure out what you want, and then you have to go after that too. And then, try to find out where you're gonna land up after that. But speaking, we always try to cover, something as far as real estate goes. And you and I have been talking. You had asked me a question about, refinancing and like the power of the refinance. And so really, I want to talk about it in reference to where we are at today. I can cover it a couple of different ways. Way to be able to take money out to do, to start your own business and things like that. But, for this conversation, I really wanted to tailor it around, people who qualify for a house right now, and the payment might be, because interest rates are higher, is more than what they would like. Right. For instance, I've got a client that I'm working with, and the house that they're looking for, the price point, the payment's going to be about $2,500 a month.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is more than what they want to pay. And they could get it down to about $2,400 a month if they pay an extra point. Right. But in paying an extra point, they're still at a $2,400 a month mortgage. And so my advice to anybody who's in the market right now is, if you're actually in the market, you can qualify and you can buy that house, is to buy the house, get in, because we don't know what the market's going to do in the future. And you'll be able to benefit from the equity that happens over time in that house, as opposed to if you're renting right now. And really, for people who don't own a house right now, if you're renting right now, where you just, that money is just going to somebody else. At least if you're in this house, if the payment is a little bit more than what you want, at least it is going towards the principal and building you equity. And the longer that you're there, you're able to have more equity in the property over time. But the refinance part of this scenario is what you can't time is when rates start to drop. So right now, if you got into that house and the rate was 6% and rates drop down to 5%, as long as you continue to maintain your bills and you can refinance that house to a 5% interest rate, which is probably going to save you about $150 a month. So the power to refinance in this scenario is the fact that if you hold the house long enough, rates will come down to a place where the payment allows for you to have more disposable income every month. And now you don't have to compete with the rest of the market, who is now saying, oh, rates have dropped, and now I want to go and try to find a house. You already got the house.
You're in your house.
You're in the house, and now rates have dropped. It's like, okay, I can refinance. You ain't got refinance now. I don't have to compete with anybody. I just got to give them the paperwork that they want, and in 30, 45 days, my payment going to be $150, $200 less.
Is it a time frame on when has that changed? The time frame as to when you can refinance?
So it's dependent on the loan that you got. Some places will say 6 months, but in a lot of instances, it's not. The only time really what lenders don't tell you is that they'll say don't refinance within 6 months. But the issue with that is lenders will get paid. Like after the transaction's done, most times they sell your mortgage to another company.
Yeah.
Well, if you refinance within 6 months, they got to pay them. Yeah, they got to pay them that money back. So the money that they were paid for that deal, they now have to reimburse them because you didn't hold that loan for 6 months. Right.
Okay.
And so that's usually when it's that time frame. That's what it's tied to. That's what it's tied to.
All right, good stuff, man.
Yeah,
good stuff.
So, man, we covered a lot today, man. I hope you guys that are tuned in, enjoyed this conversation. We talked a lot about relationship roles, responsibilities, and, being husbands and fathers. And so I hope this is a breath of fresh air for you guys that are tuning in. And please, like, comment, share, and comment either on our Facebook page or on a YouTube page. We'd like to hear if there's other topics that we're not discussing that you'd like to hear from our point of view. I mean, we don't, obviously we don't have answers to everything, but, I think that, our perspective is going to be a little bit different than what you might be hearing, out in the wild right now.
No doubt, definitely. Yeah. So look, guys, stay tapped in with us. Like I said, we want to hear what you guys have on your mind. Talk to us. We'll talk back.
All right. Stay tapped in.
Peace.